As we head into the midweek of week 26, I was almost distracted by a certain comment on Twitter yesterday. And I was thinking about addressing that comment today through this monologue. But then I had to remind myself, there's some more important events going on this week. And we're in the middle of a big playoff chase, big playoff race. I will address that comment and that particular league either this Friday or Saturday. So we're at the midweek, week 26, and there's teams, every team that's playing today is fighting for a playoff spot. Atlanta, New York Red Bulls, New England, NYCFC, Philly, Dallas, Colorado, Vancouver, all of these teams. And even though Toronto and Charlotte have a long shot, I just don't think they're gonna make it. And if they do make it, I think it's a bad look for the league. If Toronto and Charlotte end up making the playoffs, it really is a bad look for the MLS because it just makes it look like you can just coast the entire season, just get a couple draws, a couple losses, and mix them up with some draws, and then just start winning like the last 10 games of the season, and then you got the final seed. That'll just be a bad look. There are 3 teams heading into this week that's basically at a crossroads. These 3 teams have been very successful. They have been the most successful teams in the MLS. And even though Atlanta United hasn't been around as long as Seattle and the LA Galaxy, they have accomplished a lot in their short period of time. They've only been around for 5 seasons, and they have been the most successful MLS team in the Southeast. Or just the most successful soccer team in the Southeast in general. And if it wasn't for the Houston Dynamo, they would be the most successful team in the South, period. Atlanta recently lost its top executive in Darin Eales. Darin Eales is moving to Europe to work for one of the big 5 Euro teams. And not only that, this season could be the last time we see Josef Martinez ever play in an Atlanta United uniform. Josef Martinez even said it himself last month. He said he may not be back. He said this may be his last year during Atlanta's losing streak. And you would have thought any typical team, when their top star, their top leader make a big comment like that, you wouldn't expect him to get benched. You wouldn't expect him to get punished for speaking the truth, for speaking something that most of Atlanta United fans believe. But he was punished for his honesty. So that right there gave us a sign where Atlanta United was saying, we don't give a damn about you being the face of our organization. Atlanta United basically said, regardless of all of your success, Josef, no one is above the team. We don't care if you're being honest. We don't care if you're speaking what the fans want to hear. You are not above the team. And Atlanta was wrong for that. You see, listen, MLS, every MLS team in general, you need to learn the entertainment aspect of sports. American sports fans want to hear the star player say something like that when the team is not playing well. No Atlanta United fan was angry for what Josef Martinez said. What made Atlanta United fans angry was him being benched, him being punished for speaking the truth. As a result of that, there's already people, Atlanta United fans, that's saying throughout the season that the current head coach should be fired. Him, the way he treated Josef Martinez, him punishing Martinez, that made the fans even more angry. So, if I'm an Atlanta United fan, I am preparing this season to be Josef's final season in the Atlanta United jersey. And that right there will officially end a successful 5-season era of Atlanta United. But here's another catch. Atlanta United is playing against the New York Red Bulls. At home, in it's not the Georgia Dome anymore, in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, against a struggling New York Red Bulls club. This New York Red Bulls team has been struggling ever since the U.S. Open Cup. This could be a good game, a perfect opportunity for Atlanta United to, I guess, makes some kind of final push if they really want to make the playoffs, if they're really trying to make the playoffs. This is it right here. Atlanta, you cannot lose any more games. And I'll advise you not to settle for any draws. Atlanta United, if you lose this game right here, it's done. The season's done. If you lose, the season's done. If this game ends in a draw, you still have chance, but it's still going to be hard. Atlanta United, you need to go for a win. You need to go for a win. A loss tonight, and the era is officially over. However, whenever Atlanta United seasons end, whether it's the regular season or they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, this 2022 season is the end of an era for Atlanta United football, and they definitely need to go back to the drawing board. Everybody needs to be examined. Mr. Home Depot, you have to examine everybody, including that medical staff, that medical staff, the strength and conditioning staff, that whole training staff. Oh my God. I give them a big fat F based on their performance. Too many players injured this year. If I'm you, Mr. Home Depot, at the end of this season, whenever Atlanta United season ends, I'm cleaning out that entire house. That whole entire medical staff, that whole entire training staff, that whole entire strength and conditioning staff. Speaking of such, MLS players need to hit the weight room. It's just a lot of frail, skinny, weak guys with no physique. MLS players have no physique. The MLS in general needs to implement some kind of strength and conditioning program where these guys can look like men instead of teenage boys. Now the other two teams, Seattle Sounders. Now Seattle Sounders, I'm not going to be too harsh on you because, man, out of all the MLS teams, you have played the most games, it looks like. Because the CCL, that's a season within itself. The amount of games that have been added in this new edition of the CONCACAF Champions League. For you to do what you did and still having to balance a regular season, MLS regular season, that's not an easy thing to do. And injuries is part of the game. So this is why depth is important. This is why I like what LAFC is doing. I have no problem with what LAFC is doing. I don't care if they're breaking the rules. I don't care if they're being unethical. There has to be some kind of team that just ruffles people's feathers. There has to be some kind of team that steps outside the status quo. That's what I like about LAFC. They're stepping outside the status quo. That's what the MLS needs. In Seattle, heading into this offseason, you should learn from LAFC. The hell with the MLS in the past. This is a new era, Sounders. And it started with you being CCL champions. If your era ends this season by you not making the playoffs, Sounders, I think this is a great end to a season. You have made the playoffs for 13 straight seasons. Ever since your existence, you never missed the playoffs. And then for you to end the 13 or 14 year era with a CCL title, great way to end it. Sounders, you two will have to go back to the drawing board. But out of these three teams, between you, LA Galaxy, and Atlanta, I believe you're in the best hands. Out of all three of those teams, out of all three of y'all. And it's another thing, Sounders. You have to break off from bad habits. Because it looks as if you had a habit of coasting through the season. And then late in the season, you get hot, and then you get on a good playoff run. Last season, I didn't really notice much coasting from you. Like, for the most part, last season, you're top 5 all season long and ended up being top 5 in the year, bounced off in the first round. But anyhow, Sounders, out of all the MLS teams this season, I'm really impressed by what you did. Because winning a continental title, having to play multiple teams in different leagues all in one season is tough. And even though Puma Unum is not one of the top Mexican teams, it's still Liga MX. And beating Liga MX matters. Now, LA Galaxy, you have been the face of the MLS ever since its existence. You have been carrying the shield at a time where the league was threatening to go out of business. Out of all the MLS teams, LA Galaxy, you are the finest. You are the prize jewel of the MLS. However, there's a new kid in town. And that kid in town is coming for you. Similar to how NYCFC has taken over New York, LAFC is trying to take over Los Angeles. We see the big moves that they have made. And to be honest with you, if that summer transfer window was extended to a couple more weeks, LAFC would have made more moves. They have already stolen fans from you, LA Galaxy. The same way NYCFC stole fans from the New York Red Bulls. They have already got the endorsement of Hollywood. The New York Post has already labeled LAFC as the Showtime Lakers of the MLS. So big media has already acknowledged that there's a new kid on the block. Big media has already acknowledged that there's a new sheriff in town. So LA Galaxy, you got some real competition now. Of course, there's always been the Seattle Sounders and the Portland Timbers, but you never really took them serious. You were never afraid of them. Mainly because they didn't threaten your existence. They didn't threaten your popularity. LAFC poses a bigger threat to your brand. So from this game, starting this game forward, LA Galaxy, you are now forced to play with purpose, which is good for the MLS. Because too many times in the past, there is many teams that were not playing with purpose because there wasn't real rivalries around. There wasn't much real rivalries around. Teams were just treating matches like regular old exhibition matches. Teams can't do that anymore. Because LA Galaxy, you now got LAFC, Seattle, Portland, and maybe Austin. We'll see how Austin looks 5 years from now. There's real competition now. And speaking of Austin, that team is going to force Dallas and Houston to start playing with purpose now. Because for as long as they've been around, them too, especially Dallas. I don't know what's been going on with Dallas for them to be around so long and not to be dominant. But Houston has cooled off. Dallas has always been mediocre. But now, Austin has lit a fire in those programs. Because you can't allow a team that's only been around for 2 seasons to outperform you. It's a bad look on you. Atlanta, you have to play with purpose now. Because Nashville, Orlando, Charlotte, Miami, I don't believe they were around when you won that championship in 2018. You have real competition. All 3 of these teams have real competition. All 3 of y'all have real competition. And y'all have been the face of the MLS for a long time. But now, this season, it looked like it's about to be the end of an era. Atlanta and Seattle, your era could end sooner than LA Galaxy. But we'll see. I want to see you 3, Atlanta, Seattle, LA Galaxy. For the rest of this season, I want to see the 3 of y'all play with some purpose now. Now, Seattle, you're kind of excluding this because you've always played with purpose and injuries has hurt you. So you have played with purpose this season. LA Galaxy, Atlanta, especially you, LA Galaxy. You're out of these 3 teams, you're at the highest risk of becoming irrelevant. You're at the highest risk. You see how fast NYCFC has overtaken the Red Bulls as the face of New York. You're in danger of falling in your city, similar to how the Red Bulls have fell in their New York City region or metropolis. You're already losing fans because of the rise of LAFC. You're already losing fans because you are trying to monopolize Orange County to prevent local community clubs in Orange County SC from playing there in their current stadium. So it's really not a good look for you, LA Galaxy. You really have to find a way to just maintain your fans because you already lost a lot. So my final message to LA Galaxy, Seattle, and Atlanta, go out and play with purpose. I don't really care how the 3 of your seasons end. Seattle, you already know you done well enough. You know, it's really not much you can do because of your injury status. However, I just want to see the 3 of y'all end this season playing with purpose. And this is a larger discussion that I'm going to eventually have with MLS teams as a whole, most likely sometime in the offseason. I want to start seeing teams play with more purpose.